All right. I'm going to try to be as clear and concise as I possibly can because I want people to understand what it is that I'm saying, but also understand how their bias, preconceived notions, favoritism impacts how they think. And it's just bizarre how hypocritical some people will be. So Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red announced that the online for a version of let's say Cyberpunk, which will be released at a later date, something similar to Grand Theft Auto, where you get this massive game in itself, and then they tack on GTA Online. You got Cyberpunk Online, which is going to be released separately or at a later date. And I've seen people that have sat up here and clutched their pearls at games with microtransactions and said microtransactions in the concept are negative. And they don't like them. They're bad. And yet when CD Projekt Red does it for, let's say, an online portion of their game, the online Cyberpunk, right? They get to say either move the post or say, well, it's not on the single player, so that's fine. I don't even care. I never was going to play the multiplayer. It's so disingenuous. They're being disingenuous in CD Projekt Red as they've come out numerous times and have claimed that, they're different. That's how they present themselves. We're not like those other games that nickel and dime you. They have their microtransactions and we don't, because we're for the gamers, right? And people have tried to hold them up as this beacon of game development, right? Because they don't do what the others do. Yeah, they do. And they just told you again that's exactly what they do. Look, the only difference that they've been getting away, we talk about Witcher and stuff like that. Those aren't generally games that are played online. They're played single player. When we talk about the EAs, they're the ultimate teams, whether it be with FIFA, Madden, NBA 2K, when it comes to my team, those are microtransactions that are specific to those modes. There's a whole single player experience, even for FIFA, that has absolutely nothing to do with microtransactions. Nothing. Microtransactions don't impact it. It's just as released with the game. And with a lot of companies, it's a big part of their game. Some companies, it's the only part of their game. Those are generally where you see the microtransactions. You don't generally see microtransactions with single player games. Maybe one or two, like Assassin's Creed did it, but that's not generally how it works. It's not for single player games. Nobody generally, you shouldn't expect single player to have microtransactions, maybe paid expansions, but not microtransactions in the sense that you're paying along the way for certain things after paying the base price. And I want to be clear again, as I was in my last video. I am not against them having microtransactions in the game. I'm not like these other guys who are just anti-microtransactions and they just clutch their pearls at this idea that a company could have such a thing in their game. And they feel like, well, it breaks games, or they don't get full price for or they don't get full worth for a game because they have microtransactions. I'm not that guy. I'm against pay to win. Those kind of microtransactions get me riled up because those break games. Okay, those are great games, absolutely. But just the mere concept of the point of a microtransaction, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just technology. Gaming's catching up with technologies. Industries change like that. Service, subscriptions, all that's Blockbuster, Netflix, like things change. It doesn't have to remain static. But to see the hypocrisy of people say, well, it's okay for them to do it because it's not on a single player, for example. Well, I wasn't going to play it. That doesn't mean it's not there. If you were against microtransactions, why wouldn't you grill them admitting, for I believe the second time, that they'll have some sort of post monetization in the form of microtransactions? It's because they painted themselves in a corner. And because they're being disingenuous, CD Projekt acting as if they're doing something different when they're not. It's like, oh, well, hey, they come out. Well, what was the statement? Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. That little statement where they're basically like, oh, well, yeah, this is what they say right here. It won't be aggressive, right? They'll have them, but we will be aggressive. We want to make sure that they're paying money for their, they're getting bang for their buck is essentially what they're saying. I'm sure everybody that has microtransactions in their game feel the same damn way. They're just not taken like that by all people. And again, that's them being disingenuous because they've tried to act as if they are above the fray or separate from other people because they have had the benefit of making more single player linear experiences. Which don't even need microtransactions because they're not generally supported after the game launches, right? There may be patches and stuff like that to fix a bug or a glitch or two, but generally there's nothing to do post launch. The game's the game. So if they do give you something for a single player game, it's basically an add-on, right? It's an add-on and they charge you for that. Some not all the time, but sometimes. Of course, we knew CD Projekt Red was not above not doing that. They did that with Witcher. Had an expansion pass, damn near $30. You got a lot of content. It was awesome, but you had to pay for it nonetheless. So they're not doing anything separate. They just have the benefit in the type of games that they make. Now, of course, nowadays a lot of money's to be made in multiplayer experiences, and definitely for if you've developed your own world, people want to exist in that world alongside other people. It's a fun experience. They are going there. It's just separate from the single player portion of the game. Multiplayer will have microtransactions. But if you're anti-microtransactions, be anti-microtransactions. When you grill another company for having cosmetic microtransactions because they released the online with the game or it's supposed to be played online, so it's constantly supported post-launch, right? I'm not just talking about server maintenance or stuff like that. I'm talking about actual content. That's what live service games do. This is why I'm saying just to be completely anti-microtransactions is stupid. But what I cannot just sit here and not say anything about is the hypocrisy from CD Projekt Red fanboys, because they have painted themselves in a corner. Oh, well, they're different. No, they're not different. There's a reason why these companies are moving towards microtransactions, right? And they ain't doing it different. They just had the benefit in the type of game. And now because they go make the type of game that exists with microtransactions, now they gonna have microtransactions. That's it. Or so don't move the post and be like, well, this is gonna be a single player and I don't have to pay. No crap, you don't gotta pay for microtransactions in these other games that have single player. Again, the one company that everybody feels nickels and dimes have offline modes that you can spend hours on. FIFA. Having multiple years building managers and stuff, being a player manager or what have you, you can get a lot of gameplay out of that. For multiple years, having never paid anything in a microtransaction. Now, when you cross an Ultimate Team, good luck. Because there you're going to play nothing but whales that have forked over thousands of dollars to have the best team. So that's just part of that. Just be consistent. If you are anti-microtransactions, if you think microtransactions shouldn't be in game, don't not be against it simply because you have favor towards the company. And then when that company does the same thing that the other companies do, they just word it differently in terms of their rhetoric. Well, we're not going to have microtransactions on this part of the game. It's just that part of the setting when we release the Cyberpunk Online. Are they going to charge for it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Nonetheless, they will have microtransactions in that bad boy. And I knew they would.